Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel and welcome to another video in my 2025 challenge. I'm trying to photograph 250 species of birds in Massachusetts this year. So I do have an update today. Unfortunately, it's not a real positive one. I had planned on doing a pelagic birding trip. I was all signed up for it. This was going to be a really great trip that went way offshore to look for pelagic birds, and if it went off, it was likely to get me a bunch of new species for the year and probably some lifers and stuff like that. But because of Hurricane Erin coming through up the East Coast, it was canceled. So I was supposed to leave on it tomorrow morning, and it has been canceled. It's not going to be rescheduled, so I'm not going to have any other opportunities to do a pelagic this year, which is unfortunate. So just means that I'm not going to have that sort of surge of birds that's going to jump me up and put me close to 250. I'm just going to have to continue to work, get the birds one by one on land the old-fashioned way, and I'm still pressing ahead with the challenge. It could be kind of interesting because this way it's probably going to come down to the wire. I'm probably not going to reach 250 if I do until late in the year. It's not going to be one of those deals where I hit 250 with 2 or 3 months left or anything. So we'll look at it a positive way that I'm going to have to keep working for the rest of the year, which will be more interesting in the videos. And I will definitely try to do pelagics in the future for the channel because I think they're very interesting to watch. I enjoy them, and I think they make good videos. So that's kind of what's unfortunate is, wow, that would have been a really cool video, and now I'm not going to be able to get to make it. So the hurricane is passing off the coast right now. It's not actually hitting Massachusetts or the East Coast, but it's creating large waves. So I thought, let's go to the ocean and see some big waves. So I'm at Winthrop Beach right now, just pulled in. It's early in the morning. I had sort of this thought that maybe with all the waves, the shelter of the breakwaters called the sisters that are out in the water at Winthrop Beach, maybe that creates a little shelter and the birds will be sheltering there or something like that. Probably going to spend a little time at Winthrop Beach, and then I'm going to probably head to Plum Island and see what the beaches are like there. And kind of a day not doing what I expected to do today, which was head down to Hyannis for the pelagics. So still going to do some good birding. So stick with me. Well, as I had hoped, the beach was covered with shorebirds this morning, actively feeding to fuel up their bodies for the long migration ahead. These were dominated by semi-palmated sandpipers, with a fair number of semi-palmated plovers as well, and then here and there a few least sandpipers and white-rumped sandpipers, all species that are already on the year list. It wasn't until I started looking at the rack above the waterline that I spotted something that was new. Can you see the different and more colorful shorebird? A few ruddy turnstones were feeding with the smaller sandpipers. This turnstone was certainly using its larger size to its advantage. This adult is still in its breeding plumage, so it's noticeably more colorful than the drab non-breeding birds around it. Turnstones have a distinctive habit of flipping things over to search for food, which gives them their name. This drabber bird is a juvenile ruddy turnstone. There were 4 turnstones in all, but only one was in its breeding plumage. All right, so I'm just walking right along the beach here. It's pretty loud. We'll see if my microphone lets my voice actually come through. But I was right. The shorebirds are just packed in along this beach. I would say there has to be 1,000 semi-palmated sandpipers along the beach here working in the rack, and some other good species as well. So I did get one new one for the year that I was pretty excited about. That's ruddy turnstone. Exciting, not because it's a real rare bird, but because it's an expected bird that I've been looking for pretty much all year, because they do stick around a little bit in the winter. So it's that nice feeling when you finally see that bird that you've been looking for a long time. So ruddy turnstone is a new one on the list. I've also seen semi-palmated plovers, a least sandpiper, a couple of piping plovers, which were breeding on this beach before, but are now getting a little more scarce. They kind of moved on. just great. It's a beautiful morning to be out. The sun is coming up. It's windy, but not too windy to bird. The waves are actually not that high. I'm almost a little disappointed, kind of hoping for seeing a little bit more spectacular ocean. I saw some footage from Cape Cod with huge waves on the news last night, but it's nothing like that in Boston. So keep birding and see what else I can find. It seems to be a good year for laughing gulls in northern Massachusetts. I've been seeing them regularly all summer. A pair of oyster catchers dropped in just long enough for me to get a quick photo before noisily flying away. Here's a white-rumped sandpiper blending in closely with a bunch of semi-palmated sandpipers. White-rumped is a bit larger and more elongated, but the plumage and behavior are very similar. That made it very difficult to estimate the number of white-rumped sandpipers for my eBird checklist. I put down 5, but there could easily have been a lot more than that. Okay, so next up is another good bird from this same location, but from a very hot day about 10 days earlier. Okay, hi everyone. I am at Winthrop Beach in Winthrop, Massachusetts, just outside of Boston, and I'm looking for a Baird's sandpiper, or actually a pair of Baird sandpipers that have been reported here. So this is one of the more difficult shorebirds to get in Massachusetts. They're just not that common. They only come through in fall migration, and they really have just like a 2-week period when they're found. And they look like the other peeps, so they're tricky. So there were some nice reports from here of them feeding in the wrack, which is the messy seaweed that washes up on the beach. And I've been here a little while. I've looked through the birds that are feeding right at the water line, and there's quite a few semi-palmated sandpipers and plovers and other things like that there. But then I was remembering that Baird sandpiper actually prefers to be up on the beach a little bit away from the water, and so I've been looking there, and I've seen one in the distance just now. So I have the Baird sandpiper, and I'm going to work my way closer and make sure that I get some decent footage of it. But it's a good thing because it is just an awfully hot day here. I'm kind of here in the middle of the day at lunchtime. It's not really pleasant birding. So this thick stuff here, which is the seaweed that's washed up at high tide, is the preferred, I think, feeding area for Baird sandpipers. At least that's where I've spotted this pair here. I'm sure they do go down to the water occasionally. All right, I think I do see them again. So I am gonna put my phone down and pick up my birding camera, and let's get some footage here. So there you have it, very cooperative bird and relatively easy to find as well. With the reddish coloring on the head and neck and the very scaly appearance of the back feathers, this juvenile Baird sandpiper stands out more from the semi-palmated sandpipers than I was expecting. Here's the range map for Baird sandpiper. They breed way up in the Arctic and then migrate down the middle of North America, which is why they're uncommon here on the East Coast. After seeing the ruddy turnstones, I'm now driving out past the salt marshes towards Plum Island to see what I can find there. But before I do that, I want to show another good bird that I saw about 2 weeks ago, which is a trumpeter swan that showed up in a pond in Stowe, Massachusetts, about an hour west of Boston. The swan was out in the middle of this fairly large pond, and there was a lot of heat haze, so the footage isn't that good. Just as an aside, heat haze, which is caused by hot air rising off the ground, is really annoying for bird photography, as it really degrades a lot of opportunities to film birds at a distance. Nevertheless, trumpeter swan is a new one for the year list, and it's also a Massachusetts state lifer for me. Here's the range map for trumpeter swan. Massachusetts is not in the regular range, and when they do show up here, it tends to be in the far western part of the state. Trumpeter swan is the largest bird by weight that's native to North America. Mute swans, which are much more common in Massachusetts, are slightly larger but are an introduced species. Okay, so coming back to the current birding day, I drove down to the south end of Plum Island and walked out to the Atlantic side. And as you can see, it's high tide, and with the higher than normal waves, the water was really coming way up high into the beach. That was fun to see, but not really good for birding. And after walking up and down the beach for a little while, the only bird I saw was this one sanderling. So it started to look like this was going to end up being a quiet visit without any good birds. But then as I was working my way back up the island, some good news popped up on my phone. I just got kind of lucky. Someone reported on the GroupMe for Plum Island a couple of Caspian terns at Bill Forward Pool, which is where I am. There's a viewing platform just down there. And I was like 2 minutes away, so I just gunned it right over here. Didn't gun it. I came over here quickly and ran out there, and they were still there. At a distance, but with those big orange bills, very easy to identify. So that was good. I felt like I kind of needed to get something like that, where instead of driving a long way and working hard for a bird, something would just pop up. That's what you kind of hope happens, especially coming into the fall here. So I do need more of that. So that's number 2 for the day. Ruddy turnstone and Caspian tern on the list for the day. So happy about that. So once again, heat haze was an issue trying to get some decent footage of these terns. It does seem like still photos are affected a bit less than video. This is another new one for the year list, obviously, and also number 375 for the JT Birder channel life list. Got on birds here at Plum Island some more. It's high tide, which means that the main pans should be full of shorebirds, and I know there's like a million semi-palmated sandpipers out there, but I think I'll stop by again and see if anything else has come in. My next stop was actually the Hellcat area in the middle of Plum Island. The pools that are formed by the Hellcat Dike are a good spot to find shorebirds in migration. And actually, Hellcat is always a good spot to check any time of year. This snowy egret was showing nicely just off the dike. But I was more interested in the Dowitchers that were feeding actively right down in the corner of the pool. Both short-billed and long-billed Dowitchers are migrating through at this time of year. And so far, I only have short-billed on my year list. Since these species look very similar, I've been studying up on the field marks, and I concluded that these were short-billed Dowitchers, a mild disappointment. But then, I spotted another small group of Dowitchers on the opposite side of the same pool, and these look different. After watching for a while, I was able to ID them as long-billed Dowitchers, another new one for the year list. Number 230. They were a bit distant, but that really isn't an issue for identification because the best way to separate Dowitchers is by their overall shape. Now, I'm not a shorebird expert, but what I have learned from talking to other birders and studying field guides is that long-billed Dowitchers have thick and stocky bodies with curved backs and deep chests that makes them look puffed up, while short-billed Dowitchers are somewhat slimmer with a flat back. This difference in shape is more reliable than trying to rely on the subtle differences in plumage. Here are side-by-side photos of these birds. You can see how much bulkier the body of the long-billed Dowitcher is. They have a more curved back and the overall depth of the body is greater. Okay, it's time for me to wrap up this video. I've actually come off Plum Island now, and I'm back at my home patch, Horn Pond, right near my house. And this is a location that I am still birding this year. You know, I did a little big year here last year and was here all the time. And so I'm obviously not here nearly as much as I was last year. But I do have kind of a tradition where I like to see at least 150 birds here every year. So I'm in the 140s somewhere, so I'm looking forward to hitting that 150 again. So Horn Pond's a really great birding spot in the fall, especially the community garden. So I'm hoping it delivers me some new year birds for my 250 bird challenge coming up this fall. So that's going to be a wrap for this video. Thank you very much for watching, and I'm going to leave you with a little footage of a ruby-throated hummingbird that I got here at Horn Pond about a week ago. See you in the next one.